So I was in my garage last Tuesday in my dark abyss of a photo cave, the one where I've covered the windows with the darkest tint that I could possibly find. And it wasn't dark enough, so I backed it up with black foam core. So I lose all sense of time. And I was shooting, there's no easy way to put this. I was shooting beef tallow. Yeah. Don't act like you're not impressed. I wasn't shooting prime rib. There's no Michelin star gourmet prep station here. Just me and a jar of grass-fed, organic, hand-rendered cow fat on a white background. Because apparently we've advanced to the point where we have reinvented cow lard and given it better branding. And honestly, I have no idea what you do with this stuff. Do you eat it? Do you moisturize with it? Do you exercise demons? I'm staring at jars of this stuff right now. No idea what to do with it. But make candles out of it? No idea. I didn't even know what this stuff was until that guy, Robert F. Kennedy, came on the scene. And like so many things, I was forced to know something I very much didn't care to know about. And so I'm there, moving a 1/4-inch thick white foam core card, adjusting the highlights on either side of this jar for the 4th time, because apparently the specular highlights on this jar of solidified animal fat is really important, guys. It really is. Like, you don't know the hell that would break loose if those highlights weren't symmetrical. Like, my entire business would tank. My family would starve, guys. We would be living under the 5, which is the interstate that runs through California. We would starve. We would end up under an overpass, living there, if those highlights weren't symmetrical. You know? If I didn't move that foam core 3/8 of an inch so that the highlight was equal distance on either side of that black and white label, the cute cow on it. So after I finished photographing the 8-ounce jar, I now had to move to the 12-ounce variant. And I must admit, friends, I lost my shit a little bit, you know? I picked up my phone. I opened Instagram. That's how I usually procrastinate, I guess. And I saw another photographer. I saw actually several photographers shooting the work that I used to get to shoot, you know? It's the attractive model hanging out of the Audi sports cars. You know, the cool shit. Meanwhile, my beautiful, prized, overpriced camera, this device capable of capturing light and soul and meaning and making incredible art, is pointed directly at cholesterol in a black jar. You know, I used to shoot album covers, guys. I was a pretty big deal, you know? Shot editorial spreads. My images have been in Rolling freaking Stone. Now, apparently, I'm one lighting ratio away from working for Butterworld. You know, I've had my images in actual galleries where people would stop and look at my work for more than 3 seconds before scrolling past. I've had my work published in books. I've had my images literally on the side of buildings that required a crane and a liability waiver to install. I've led and photographed 6-figure campaigns for national brands. Above that, I've written a bloody book on photography. And yet, here I am in a dark garage on a Tuesday, adjusting a softbox because that subtle shadow on that $36 jar of fat isn't quite right. You know? It's because I care. I care, guys. And I'm doing the most tedious, commoditized, creatively soulless task available to my skill set. While everything I know I can do seems to have just evaporated into a puff of macroeconomic smoke. Why in the hell? Seriously, I had this moment, like looking up and like, what am I doing? And I actually said this out loud. You know? Why am I photographing these jars of beef fat in my garage on a Tuesday? And in my little career temper tantrum, somewhere between why am I doing this and maybe I'll just move to Vermont to become a sheep farmer. Right? Own a bunch of pork, buy a bunch of sheep, make sweaters or whatever. My phone and Mac pinged at the same time. I got a text from my friend Candice. She's an illustrator in St. Louis. She's super talented. Oh my gosh, she's talented. She's just checking in. I swear, it was like the universe, you know, sending me a push notification and said, snap out of it. Stop being a whiny little... Never mind. So, naturally, after she asked how I was doing, I lied. I typed back, yeah, oh yeah, things are pretty good here. And I redirected it back onto her. I was like, how are you doing? How's business been for you? And she's more honest than I am. She said, yeah, not great. Everything is a dumpster fire out there. And that's when I kind of realized that we're both standing in rooms full of smoke. We're both coughing and hacking, wondering where this fire is. But I think for some different reasons. I do want to say up front, I want to give an update on how my business is doing. Some of you are always concerned, right? You think I'm going to be in the line for the soup kitchen with my family. No, we're not there. I'm not drowning. Back in May and June, however, it was a little bit different of a story, but things are pretty good. Things are okay. If you want an auditory adventure, go back and listen to the episodes around then, May and June. Let's just say they got a little dark. I never promise sunshine and rainbows, you know? We're always going to be honest here at The Terrible Photographer, and I don't want to hold back. But I digress. Okay. Beef Tallow, Candice. Okay. Yeah, my business isn't dead. It's still humming along. But it is a little strange right now. It's been strange this entire year, if I can be honest. I'm getting enough work to keep the train moving, you know? It's not glamorous. It's not the sexy work. It's not the models and Audis. It's not thrilling, but it's steady. And honestly, I need to say this. I am really, really grateful for it. I love the fact that I still can say that I am a full-time photographer. And I will shoot jars of beef fat all day long. If it means that I can get paid, make sure that the lights stay on, and that I can still be called a photographer. So I'm so thankful for my beef tallow client. Please hear me. But I've been thinking about this stuff a lot. I got a report back from my accountant about my numbers. It's November 1st. We're approaching the end of the year. And I normally try to avoid these reports, but this time I actually looked at it. And I saw something that kind of freaked me out a little bit, you know? I saw that I'm actually financially behind where I was in 2023, which is my first year of freelancing, which means that this will be, if things are going the way that they have been going, will be my worst year owning my own business. Not flat, not plateaued, backwards. And I can't help that feeling that maybe it's not just me, you know? But it's okay though. There are things in the works. I'm hoping that I can rally in the next couple of months and maybe squeak ahead of those 2023 numbers. But Candice says that she's drowning in silence, which I can empathize with. I've been there. And when you watch the news, there's words like recession and volatility and soft landing. And every headline sounds like a euphemism for we have no idea what the fuck is happening. But I'm working, but it's different work. You know, it's the less sexy, big idea stuff. It's more of the keep the lights on kind of work. I've done more simple product photography work this year than really in the past 6 months than 2023 and 2024 combined. It's strange. I'm not sure why. And I get it. Yeah, some of this is marketing, positioning, and timing. I can hear the business people out there saying this already. Like, well, how are you positioning yourself? You know, how are people finding you? I get it. But I also think there's something bigger happening. There's something structural, something beyond our control, maybe. It's like the current has shifted and no one told us swimmers about it. So what I'm learning is, and I've been really, for the past 3 or 4 days, I've been doing this ADHD deep dive into the economy. And what I'm figuring out that what I assumed was that the economy has slowed down, but it's actually split in half. And I think I figured out why everyone feels like they're either sprinting or sinking. But no one is explaining it to us freelancers. So I thought I would give it a shot today. My name is Patrick Four, and this is the Terrible Photographer podcast, where we have honest conversations about creativity, identity, discovering your voice, and today, economics. This is episode 34, and I'm calling it the Economic Dumpster Fire. I'm so stoked that you're here. If this is your first time, welcome. Today, we're talking about work and money and why we all need more of it and why we're not getting enough of it. So with that said, let me show you what I found. I need to say this up front. First of all, I'm not an economist, right? Not at all. But I do have the ability to research things and learn things. And I'm trying my best, and I'm going to try my best to explain it in a way that makes sense to me. And I feel like I'm at a level where if it makes sense to me, maybe it can make sense to you too. As you know, or as you probably know, I hope you know, that the US economy isn't a monolith. And neither is the UK or Europe, because I know that we have people listening in the UK and Europe and everywhere else. Different regions get hit at different times. Different sectors experience completely different realities, different financial realities. And some of you listening to this are thinking, I don't know what you're talking about. Things are great here. I'm booked through March. In fact, I have more work than I can handle. Maybe you're turning away clients. Your issue isn't finding work. Maybe it's volume. You're eating well. You're doing fine. But some of you are thinking, man, preach. Finally, someone is talking about this stuff. Some of you also are really struggling right now. Your calendar is empty. You're refreshing your email, hoping for something, anything. The table scraps, and you're barely getting by. And these experiences are valid. You know, they're real for a lot of us. Some of us are working, we're busy. Some of us are working and busy doing the gigs and jobs that we are good at, that we love doing. Some of us, like me, are pretty busy doing the work that's okay. Just the Tuesday level beef tallow type work. And there's some of us that aren't working at all, that are barely getting by. And I think you can't fight a problem until you can see it, right? You need a simple image. It's a simple mental model to explain why your calendar is either empty, crazy busy, or jammed with beef tallow. So what I want to do is I want to play a little imagination game, shall we? Like the ones that we played when we were kids in school. Stay with me. I know this is a little weird. I think this explains, though, why both my illustrator friend, Candice, and I, and maybe you, are drowning at the same time. I want you to imagine that we're no longer photographers or freelancers or designers. I want you to imagine that you're a chef in a restaurant. You know your stuff. You're good, right? We don't make images anymore. We make food. Not images, we make food. And I want you to picture 3 restaurants in a row. 3 completely different dining experiences. Different patrons, different price points, right next to each other. 3 restaurants in a row, completely different. You got restaurant 1, which is a local non-franchise burger place. Walk-up window, food and paper bags, drinks and foam cups, have been there for 40 years. Diet Cokes, not craft cocktails, nothing fancy. But it's good, it's fast, it's cheap, and the line is always out the door. People need to eat. And this place isn't going anywhere. Restaurant 2. It's a casual sit-down spot. Again, we're not talking about Chili's right? Or BJ's. It's non-franchised. We're talking local ingredients, quality food, delicious, reasonable. The kind of place that you would take a date or your family for a birthday dinner or meet friends for drinks on Friday. It's not cheap, but it's not insane either. It's good value for good food and good service. And this place used to be packed every weekend. Reservations required, the buzzing bar, wait list at the host stand. But you drive by now and you see an empty parking lot. Half the lights are off. There's a for lease sign in the window. And it's not closing because the food is getting worse. It's closing because the people who used to eat there, the middle class, people like us probably, with discretionary income, the families celebrating something special, but not extravagant, the 20-somethings on a date, they can't afford it anymore. Those people are at the burger window now, or they're eating at home. Then there's the third restaurant, Restaurant 3. It has Michelin stars. It has a multi-course tasting menu. It has wine pairings, lobster tails, and gin martinis. $300 per person before tip. Gilded everything. Valet parking, velvet ropes. This place still solidly booked. Reservations 3 months out. And the people who eat there are fine. They're always financially fine. The recession doesn't touch them, doesn't affect them. So, yeah. And so, yeah, some of you, some of us, you're a line cook right now, flipping burgers and serving Diet Cokes. And some of you are an executive chef making lobster tails and serving gin martinis. And so when I dug into the data, here's what I found. The middle restaurant, as I said, it's closed or in the process of closing. It's not just slow right now. And then you got your cheap place, which is still functional. It's still thriving, actually. And that expensive place, Restaurant 3, again, still thriving. But that middle place, the place where most people eat, the place that served the most customers, the place that actually sustained a vibrant local economy, where multiple vendors relied upon it. Everyone from the waitstaff to the bartenders to the local farmers who sold them produce, or the local butchers who sold them meat. Everyone is suffering because that place closed down. And if you're a freelancer, I find that you're either flipping burgers on the line at the window. It's commodity work, it's fast and cheap, or you're getting hired at the Michelin spot, luxury clients, high-end corporate. Because the restaurant that you used to work at, the one with reasonable prices and good creative work, the clients who valued what you brought to the table, it's gone. And nobody told you it was closing until one day you showed up to work, to your shift, and the doors were locked. And again, this isn't happening everywhere. Not all at once. But there's a pattern. The data proves it. Let me show you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the numbers because the numbers are important. Because this whole thing, it's not theoretical. This is measurable. There's data here. The service sector flattened. Okay. So the US service sector, which is, by the way, the largest part of the US economy. It's the big engine that drives everything. It basically stopped moving in September of 2025. Not slowed down, stopped. The index they use to measure this, it's called the ISM Service Index. And it hit a number that, if you're an economist, makes you pour a very strong drink. 50.0. Now, you're thinking, as I was, what the hell is 50.0? Think of it like a car speedometer. In economics, the number 50 is the stagnation line. It's the moment when the engine disengages. Anything above 50 means the economy is pushing the gas and it's growing. Anything below 50 means it's hitting the brakes and shrinking. At 50.0, the engine doesn't stall. It doesn't speed up. It just basically turns off. It's idling. And you're sitting at a stoplight, but the light is stuck on yellow and you're not going anywhere. And historically, for this whole thing to feel healthy, for things to feel good for us, that number should be around 54.7. We aren't just a little below average. We are sitting exactly at the point where the whole thing just says, nah, I'm good. The service sector, our sector, is effectively frozen. And here's why this matters to you if you're a freelancer like me. Photography, design, illustration, writing, consulting. We're all service providers. We live and we breathe in this sector. And when it flatlines, when the engine just sits there idling, we feel it first. We feel it the hardest. When a company's budget gets tight, what do they cut? They don't cut the product already on the shelf. They don't cut the salespeople who can sell it. They cut the services, the marketing, the freelancers, the creatives, any line items that aren't nailed down. That, my friends, is us. And over in Europe, it's not really any better. Banks tightened credit standards for business loans in Q3 of 2025. Even though inflation is finally coming down, they're still not lending. They're holding on to cash. 37% of European businesses postponed, canceled, or scaled back investment plans. So what that means is when your client goes to mid-negotiation, when they say, we're really interested, and then either disappear or tell you it's not the right time, it's not about your portfolio, it's not about you, it's not about your pricing, it's about their bank saying, no, you have no cash. And then it brings us to the consumers. 84% of people with credit card debt say it's affecting their financial decisions. They're delaying any major purchases. They're cutting anything that's non-essential. So what that means is family portraits. I know you think what you do is super essential, but it's really not in the eyes of consumers. Personal branding shoots, gone. Anything that feels like a luxury, they're out. And here's the crazy part in all this. The top 20% of households are responsible for 2/3 of all consumption in the US right now. 2/3, which means the wealthiest 20% are basically keeping the entire consumer economy afloat. And they're still spending, but selectively on specific things. Baby boomers are spending on experiences. You got your travel, your dining, your luxury services. They're spending their cash. Gen Z, the ones with access to some family wealth or they have good jobs, they're spending on goods, apparel, electronics, products. So the money isn't disappearing, it's just concentrated. The middle, though, collapsed. The top is staying stable, and the bottom is getting crushed. That's called bifurcation. Okay, hopefully this is starting to make some sense, okay? So Candice, my illustrator friend from St. Louis, she primarily works with small businesses, magazines, middle market brands. The exact segment that's getting crushed. They can't get credit. So they're postponing projects. They're canceling anything non-essential. She's standing outside of restaurant 2, and the doors are locked, and the for lease sign is up. She's waiting for consumers who can't afford to come back. Me, right now, currently, I'm working at restaurant 1 sometimes. The burger window, fast and cheap, functional work that keeps my lights on. Not because I suddenly got worse, or it's a reflection of me and my brand, but because my work has declined. Restaurant 2 has closed. Those mid-tier clients who had reasonable budgets that actually cared about the craft, a lot of them have disappeared into that collapsed middle market. So what's left is restaurant 1 work, the beef tallow shoots, the commodity e-commerce that pays the bills while I pivot. Or you got restaurant 3 work, which is the high-end luxury corporate clients, which I'm trying to reposition towards. We're both casualty of the same restaurant closing, even though we do 2 very different things. We're just standing on different sides of that locked door. Okay, so if the middle bistro is closed, where are all the people who can still afford to eat? Where do we, the freelancers, actually go to sell our beautiful, hard-earned craft? Listen, we don't need theory right now. We need tactics. I hate podcasts that just explain the problem. So what I'm trying to do is give you some strategies in some practical ways that can actually get money flowing into our bank accounts. The money is actually going into 3 highly specific places. Number 1, the luxury experience market. This is all about where the discretionary money is still flowing, but it's split into 2. So you have to be specific. Don't think everyone rich. Think specific, segmented spending. Okay? So for B2C/lifestyle creatives, baby boomers with wealth are spending on experiences. They are traveling. They're dining, buying expensive luxury services. They want high quality documentation of that experience before they kick the bucket. So if you shoot lifestyle, travel, fine dining, or high-end hospitality, this is your market. You're selling across memory. I'm also going to throw in there wedding photography. My wedding photographer friends that are doing the best are the ones in the high-end market, because who are their parents? The baby boomers, right? They're the ones holding on to the real estate and holding on to the most cash, and they're going to invest in a luxury wedding. So if you're a wedding photographer and if you shoot mid to low tier weddings, you're hurting. But if you shoot high-end weddings, right? Napa, Italy, these amazing weddings that appear in Vogue and all these other places, you're probably doing fine. That is the best place for you to be. Okay, so now I want to talk to my commercial creatives, the product creatives, right? The people who are B2B. Younger, affluent consumers, the ones that have access to generational wealth, let's be honest, or the ones with decent paying jobs, and those decent paying jobs that are out there in tech, if you're still employed, if you haven't gotten laid off. If they have money, they're buying goods, apparel, high-end electronics, niche products, new brands. That's the e-commerce gold rush. And if you shoot products, look for brands targeting Gen Z or younger millennials with cash, and they're out there. Which is why, again, for the past 6 months, I've shot more product than I have in the past basically 3 years. You have to know which one you're targeting. Sell luxury travel to a 25-year-old or streetwear product to a 75-year-old and you'll starve. The money is there, guys, but the aisles are separated. Okay, so that was luxury and experience market. Now we're going to talk about institutional clients. It's the boring but stable stuff. This is the stuff that nobody puts in their Instagram or on their sexy portfolio site. But this is consistent work. Think of this as the corporate cafeteria that never closes. This work is recession resistant because it's not marketing. It's operations, compliance, and risk management. It doesn't stop during a downturn because it's mandatory. When a company hires 50 new people, they need corporate headshots. In fact, I got hired recently to do a company with about 40 people. It happens. I'm not a headshot photographer. I will absolutely, in this economy, shoot headshots. When a hospital expands, they need decent facility photography for accreditation and their website. When the insurance company processes a massive claim, they need documentation that holds up in court. I've actually photographed a job for an insurance company, and it paid really, really well for the most simple, easy work that I've ever done. And real estate, especially high-end real estate, doesn't stop needing images. Yes, it is unsexy. Your photography friends will judge you for shooting industrial architecture or headshots or beef tallow in your garage, but it pays rent and it's predictable. It buys you time to do the creative work that you actually want to do later. Okay, so we've talked about the luxury and experience market. We've talked about institutional clients, the boring stuff. Now we're going to talk about high growth sectors, which is the AI and health boom. So even when the main economy feels flat, there are some industries that are aggressively expanding. They actually have the budgets for more creative work, and they're using it for things like recruiting and investor relations because they either view it as essential or they are riding a massive tech wave. Here are the heavy hitters. Information technology. I think AI, data software, they need clean, authoritative images for product launches and, more importantly, to attract talent. You got your fintech, which is your financial and real estate. They need to look trustworthy and modern headshots, materials, digital first design. Then you got healthcare and life sciences. So you got your hospitals, biotech, and pharma. These are the essential services. They need photographers and designers for patient-facing materials, recruiting, and facility images. Often, pharma is described as the white whales in photography because they have money. These companies aren't just surviving, they're actually expanding their workforce. That means they need visual content from us. And they have the money because they are either essential healthcare or directly benefiting from the current trends. You got AI and fintech. Everything else is cutting. So what's the diagnosis? We've talked about this. The economy is bifurcated. Restaurant 2 is closed. You need to pivot. You need to survive this. But what are we actually going to do on Monday morning? Because you can't just wake up and suddenly have a roster of IT clients or luxury brand accounts. That's not how this thing works. So here's what you can do this week, not someday, this week. You should audit your current clients. Find your exposure. So what I want you to do is I want you to pull up your current client list from the past 12 months. All of them. Now, divide them into 3 categories. And yes, we are using the restaurant names because it makes it more simple. The Counter, the walk-up burger shop, restaurant 1. Commodity, stable work, IT, finance, healthcare, government, large institutions, e-commerce, product volume. These clients are either recession-proof or benefiting from current trends. They represent a stable market. Then restaurant 2, the bistro, the collapsing middle. Small businesses, mid-market brands, general consumers with discretionary income, like families, seniors. These clients are hurting. They might come back eventually, but right now, this is the exposed market segment. And then you got your gilded restaurant, right? The Michelin star restaurant, restaurant 3. That's the affluent luxury market, your high-end residential, your luxury brands, your affluent consumer services, your high-end weddings, your big ad agency creative budgets. These clients are still spending, but they're selective, and these jobs are hard to get. Everyone is trying to get these jobs. Look at where most of your current revenue comes from. If it's heavily the bistro, restaurant 2, you're exposed. You're probably hurting right now. That's the closed restaurant. And so what you need to do is you need to create a plan to aggressively pivot. And I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Question number 1, who in my current network works in category A or C sectors? Okay, so you probably already know someone who works in ITs, right? Someone's cousin is a CFO, someone's friend works in the hospital system. You're not starting from zero. You're just not thinking about them as potential clients yet. So what I want you to do is I want you to make a list. 5 names. People who either work in these stable sectors or have access to affluent networks. I want you to text them or email them this week. Not with a pitch, just quote, hey, I'm doing some research on whatever their industry is. Can I buy you a coffee or have a conversation about how companies like yours think about visual content? Right? Make it natural. Make it come from you. Don't be salesy. Don't be weird. Don't be aggressive. You're not selling. You're learning, right? But you're also planting a seed. Okay. Question number 2. Who do I currently shoot that translates to stable sectors. You shoot portraits? Corporate headshots are portraits. It's true. They are. You shoot products? Every IT company has products that need to look good on their website. Shoot lifestyle? Healthcare systems need lifestyle imagery for recruiting and patient-facing materials. My beef tallow brand, their market, their demographic, it's maybe not you. It's not me. It's high-end consumers that can afford to buy $36 beef tallow. That company that I work for is a good company to work for because they are reaching affluent customers. Does that make sense? What I want you to do is pick a stable sector. Research 5 companies in that sector in your area. Look at their websites. Look at their marketing materials, their visual content. And then I want you to ask, what do they need that I could provide? And I want you to write this down. This is what it means to be a business owner. A lot of research. Staying up 2, 3 a.m., doing a lot of research, working on this stuff. Emailing random people, pitching random people. You always got to be closing, right? Or that old sales slogan. Okay, which brings us to number 3. What's one thing I can stop doing that's draining me for no return? And this really is the hard one. I'm going to repeat that question. What's one thing I can stop doing that's draining me for no return? Is there a client type that you keep taking that pays shitty, demands too much, and represents a dying market segment? The family portrait session that requires 3 hours of shooting and 6 hours of editing for $300. Stop doing that shit. The small business logos that turn into endless client revision cycles. The exposure projects that never actually land anywhere or have any portfolio value. You don't have to quit everything cold turkey tomorrow, but pick one thing, one client type, one service offering, and decide, I'm not taking these anymore. Not because I'm entitled, but because my time is finite. And that market has shifted. Your energy needs to go towards building category A or category C relationships, right? Either in restaurant 1 or restaurant 3 relationships. Either fine dining, luxury, affluent, high-end corporate markets, or let's just say the burger flipping of photography, the burger flipping of creative work. So let me repeat the questions. I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions. Who in my current network works in either category A or category C sectors, which is restaurant 1 or restaurant 3 sectors? Question 2. What do I currently shoot that translates into these stable sectors? Okay. And question number 3 is, what's one thing that I can stop doing that's draining me for no return? Here's the practical reality. You might need to take on some boring, stable beef tallow level work to create some breathing room. Real estate photography, corporate headshots, insurance documentation. It's not sexy. It will not go in your portfolio. Your photographer friends might judge you, might say you're shooting something off brand. It's bullshit. It's consistent work. It's recession resistant, and it buys you time to build the business that you actually want. Think of it like taking a few shifts at restaurant 1 while you build the skills and the connections to get hired at restaurant 3. It's not the creative work that you dreamed of, no, but it pays your rent and it keeps you in the game long enough to pivot towards something better. You don't have to love it. You just have to do it well enough that they hire you again. Okay, so here's your goal for the next 6 months. I'm calling this the 80-20 split. 80% of your time and energy should go towards work that pays bills and builds stability. It's restaurant 1, institutional level work. Category C, it's restaurant 3, luxury work. The boring stuff, the commodity stuff, whatever keeps the lights on. 20% of your time needs to go towards the creative work that matters to you, that keeps you going, that keeps you feeling creative, that keeps you from being burnt out. Your portfolio projects, your test shoots, your personal vision projects, the stuff that reminds you why you started doing this in the first place. And right now, you might be trying to make every project be both. Every project has to pay well and be creatively fulfilling and build your portfolio and be meaningful. And listen, friends, that is not realistic in a bifurcated economy. Some work pays, some work fulfills. Very few do both. Separate them, make peace with that, and protect that 20% like your creative life depended upon it, because it absolutely does. Here's the thing that's been kind of messing with my head. Even when I understand all of this, even when I know for a fact that restaurant 2 has closed, that the market bifurcated, that I need to pivot, my brain still tells me, just work harder, man. Just be more consistent. Just don't feel anything about shooting beef tallow. In that same conversation with Candice, I was talking about how I was having trouble staying motivated, that the work that I was doing was just discouraging me, that I was having trouble just executing and getting things out the door. And she resonated. And she said something pretty explicitly. She said, I want to be an unwavering mechanical thing. And I felt that in my soul. We both want to be machines that can output regardless of context, regardless of meaning, regardless of whether the work feels right or the clients are even there. But we're not machines. The human body operates in cycles. It's circadian rhythms. Your energy peaks and crashes over 24 hours. Seasonal patterns. Your mood and creativity shifts with light and temperature. This is biology. You're not a machine. It's not a character flaw. But capitalism needs you to believe that you're broken when you can't perform consistently. Because if you blame yourself, you won't blame the system. You will still buy the productivity course instead of asking, why am I expected to perform at the same level when my entire industry is bifurcated, when restaurant 2 literally closed and no one told me? Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. I used to think that meant control your reactions, stay calm, stay, quote, stoic. But I also think it meant stop pretending you control the outside events. You don't control the ISM service index. You don't control bank lending standards. You don't control the fact that restaurant 2 is closed. You don't control whether your brain can focus today. You can't control whether the work feels meaningful. You don't control your nervous system's response to shooting beef tallow while questioning your life choices. Here's what you do control: whether you're honest about the struggle, whether you adapt your strategy based on actual market conditions, not the market you wish existed, whether you give yourself the grace to be human. And here's what I'm actually asking myself. What am I actually ashamed of? Am I ashamed of shooting the beef tallow? Not really. It's just a product. The work itself is fine. What I'm ashamed of is what I think it means that I've peaked. Worse, I'm going backwards. But the market has decided I'm not worth what I used to be. But the data tells a different story. The market didn't decide that I'm not valuable. The market bifurcated. The clients I used to serve doesn't exist in the same form. Restaurant 2 is closed. The middle segment has collapsed. That's not judgment on my work. That's structural economics. And the strategic question isn't how do I get back to where I was? The question to ask is, where are the people who can still afford to eat and I'm willing to cook for them? You want to know something interesting? Michelangelo didn't choose to paint the Sistine Chapel. The Pope commissioned it, told him what to paint, where to paint, how to paint it. Michelangelo actually wanted to become a sculptor. He thought painting was beneath him. But he showed up, laid on his back for 4 years, painted what he was told to paint. It made something that outlasted that Pope. Outlasted himself, really. Outlasted the shame. Not because it was exactly what he wanted to be doing. He wanted to be sculpting. But because he understood something crucial. The client with the money gets to commission the work. In the Renaissance, that was the church. Today, it's IT customers, it's healthcare systems, financial firms, affluent baby boomers. And the question isn't whether you like that. The question is whether you're willing to adapt to that. Here's the thing that I keep coming back to. Last Tuesday, when I was in my garage and I was shooting the beef tallow, adjusting that softbox for the 4th time, I had this moment where I thought, what am I doing? Is this what it was all for? And for a second, I genuinely didn't know the answer. But when I finished the shoot and I edited the images, and you know what? It looked good. Really fucking good, actually. The light was clean. The composition was perfect. Amazon approved. The label was even, clean, readable. The highlights were delicious. Nobody's going to look at those images and think about the work that went into them, about the expertise it took to get to the place to create them. Nobody's going to frame those images or put them in a gallery. But somebody's going to see them on a website and think, oh, that looks legit. I trust this brand. And that company is going to sell more beef tallow. And they're going to stay in business. And then they're going to hire me again. That's the work. Not every project is a Sistine Chapel. Most of them are just work, craft, showing up, solving problems with light and composition and pixels and years of accumulated knowledge. And I think somewhere along the way, we get sold this idea that if the work isn't deeply meaningful or sexy, that it's not worth doing. That unless every project is a creative breakthrough, we're wasting our lives, but that's just fucking bullshit. You know what's meaningful? Being a person who shows up consistently, who does the work in front of them with integrity, who doesn't phone it in just because the client isn't prestigious or the project isn't portfolio worthy. That's meaningful. When my daughter Lucy was 7, she drew pictures constantly, mostly of the same thing over and over again. Castles, dogs with weird proportions. And sometimes she would get frustrated. She would say, Dad, this one isn't good enough. And I would always ask her, well, did you try your best? Yeah, she said. Then that's good enough. Not because the drawing is objectively great. They were drawn by a 7-year-old. But because she tried. She did it. She showed up. She made the thing. She practiced the craft. And I think that's pretty awesome. That's what matters. I think about my brother Charlie a lot, the chef who died in 2013. I still think about him probably at least once or twice a week. Charlie spent years in kitchens that nobody remembers, in really shitty, dark kitchens in the Bay Area, cooking for people who probably couldn't tell you what they ate that morning. Prep work, dishwashing, line cooking, the grind. But that dude showed up every day, even when it was hard, even when it wasn't glamorous, even when he was working at Restaurant 1 instead of Restaurant 3. And the people who worked with him remember that he gave a shit, you know? He was super passionate about food, that he never cut corners, that he brought his full intelligence and passion into every dish, even when nobody was watching. And that, my friends, is legacy. Not the accolades, not the recognition, but the way that you show up when it doesn't matter to anyone but you. Listen, this economy, again, is bifurcated. Restaurant 2 is closed. Your career might not look like you thought it would, but here's the answer. Here's what I know. The world still needs people who can see light, people who do what we do, who understand composition, who can take a jar of beef tallow and make it look like something worth buying. The world needs people who can translate an idea into something visual, who can make a CEO look trustworthy, who can make a product look desirable, who can capture a moment that matters. That skill doesn't disappear just because the market has shifted. It doesn't become worthless just because you're not shooting the projects that you dreamed of. It just means that you have to find people who still need it. And you have to be willing to show up even when it's hard, even when it's fucking hard, even when it's not glamorous, even when it's dirty, even when you're working at Restaurant 1 covered in grease while building towards Restaurant 3. Building craft matters. Integrity matters. Showing up matters. And yeah, you need to be strategic. You need to pivot. You need to adapt to the market as it actually exists, not as you wish it existed. But don't let this strategy make you cynical. Cynical sucks. Cynicism is boring. Don't let the pivot make you forget why you started doing this. You became a photographer because you could make something, you saw something the rest of us couldn't see. Because you understood light in a way that almost felt like magic. Because making images felt like the most honest fucking thing that you could do with your time. That didn't change. The market changed. The economy changed. The clients changed. But you're still the same person who sees light. And that's worth fighting for. Listen, Candice and I are drowning. Different water, same fire. We told the truth. We admitted that it's fucking hard. And then we got back to work. Because that's what you do. You acknowledge the reality, you adapt the strategy. You tell yourself the truth about how hard it is, but then you show up anyway. Not because you're naive, not because you think positive thoughts will manifest abundance or whatever, but because the work is worth doing, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The garbage fire, the dumpster fire is real. Economic data is real. The struggle is real. So is your craft, and so is your integrity. So is the fact that you're still here, still making things and still showing up. And in a world that's increasingly automated, curated by algorithms and artificial, that matters more than you think. The fire is still burning, friends, but so are we. And maybe that's the whole point. I'll see you next Tuesday. Until then, stay curious, stay courageous, stay busy, and yeah, stay terrible.